Okay, so I bet you're listening because you want to speak English fluently, right? Like without that mental block that seems to hit so many of us.
Yep, that's a common one.
Well, today we're diving into a YouTube video. It's called Unlocking Your Fluent English Brain.
Catchy title.
It is, and it's hosted by these language learning experts. They use really cool visuals and explanations. I think you'll like it. So,
Let's jump in.
yeah, let's see what they have to say.
Well, they get right to the point, talking about that feeling I think a lot of us know. You know the rules, you've studied, but then,
You freeze up when you actually got to speak.
exactly, they actually call these things fluency blockers.
Fluency blockers, I like that. Makes it sound like a solvable problem.
Right, and they really nailed the top three, in my opinion.
I'm ready to hear them. I mean, that whole knowing the rules but still freezing thing, it's so frustrating. Like, why can't I just use what I've learned?
Yeah, it's a real struggle.
So what's the first blocker they talk about?
First up is overthinking.
Overthinking. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, when you think about it, if you're mentally translating everything back and forth from your native language to English,
It's going to take forever. No wonder it's so exhausting.
it's like you're trying to have a conversation while doing a math problem in your head at the same time.
Aha, yeah. And I bet that leads right into their next blocker.
You got it. Lack of practice.
So you can't just, like, read about English and expect to speak it fluently.
Nope. They compare it to physical exercise.
Makes sense.
You can't just read about fitness and expect to run a marathon.
How to train.
Exactly.
So you're saying to be a fluent English speaker, it's more than just the grammar and vocab lists.
It's about actually using the language,
Hmm.
getting out there and having those conversations.
Okay, so we've got overthinking and lack of practice. What's the third big fluency blocker they mention?
The big one, fear of making mistakes.
Ugh, yeah, that one's a killer. I think we all struggle with that to some extent.
It's totally natural. But when you're trying to learn a new language, that fear can really paralyze you.
I know that feeling all too well. So, do they offer any advice on how to deal with that? Because if I wait until I feel perfectly ready to speak English, I'll be waiting forever.
Right. I don't think that day ever really comes.
So what do they say?
Well, before they jump into the techniques, they actually talk about the science behind language learning, specifically something called neural pathways.
Okay, neural pathways. Sounds kind of complicated. Do I need to dig out my old biology textbook for this?
Haha, no textbooks needed. Think of it this way. Every time you use a word or phrase in English,
You're creating a pathway in your brain.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
and the more you use it, the stronger that pathway gets. They compare it to building a road, the more you travel on it.
The smoother and wider it gets.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. So the more I practice speaking English,
The easier it becomes for your brain to find the words and express your thoughts. It's like the more you walk, the easier walking becomes, right?
yeah, that makes sense. But what does this have to do with fluency?
Well, they point out that babies learn languages naturally through immersion. And the cool thing is...
We can kind of mimic that process as adults.
Exactly.
Fascinating. So even though I'm not surrounded by English all the time...
You can still create an immersive environment for yourself.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? That's the million-dollar question.
Well, that's where their 6 techniques for unlocking fluency come in.
6 techniques. Okay, I'm all ears.
They're all about creating that immersion, making English a regular part of your life, not just something you study from a textbook.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's hear those techniques.
First one is called the no translation rule.
No translation. What does that mean?
It means you got to train your brain to think directly in English.
Instead of translating from my native language?
Yep. So instead of thinking, I am happy in your native language, and then translating it to, I am happy in English.
I should just think, I am happy in English right from the start.
Exactly. It might seem simple.
But I bet it's harder than it sounds.
It definitely takes practice.
Yeah.
But it's a really powerful way to break that translation habit and start thinking in English more naturally.
It's like, I'm learning to see the world through an English lens.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, I like that. What's the next technique they recommend?
This one might sound a little strange at first.
Uh-oh, I'm a little scared now.
It's called talk to yourself.
Wait, like literally talk to myself out loud?
You can if you want,
Uh.
or you can just think in English silently. The point is to practice consistently.
Even when you don't have anyone else to talk to?
Exactly. You can narrate your day, think through your to-do list, have imaginary conversations.
Oh, in English?
Yep. It's like
Mm.
you're giving your brain a constant workout in English, even when you're just going about your daily routine.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Well.
What about technique number 3?
Number 3 is the 5-second rule.
5-second rule. That sounds familiar. but not in a language learning way.
Right. Well, this one's all about breaking that hesitation habit.
Oh, I definitely struggle with that. Like, I know what I want to say.
But then you hesitate.
Yeah, and those few seconds feel like an eternity.
It's the worst. So with the 5-second rule, the challenge is to respond to questions in English within 5 seconds.
Whoa, that's putting me on the spot.
It forces you to think quickly and spontaneously.
I bet that's uncomfortable at first.
It can be, but it gets easier with practice.
So I'm seeing a theme here.
Oh, yeah.
These techniques are all about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone.
And building that quick thinking muscle.
Exactly. Okay, what about technique number 4?
Technique number 4 is called shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay, tell me more.
Basically, you listen to native English speakers and try to copy their rhythm and pronunciation.
Oh, so it's more than just passively listening.
It's about actively trying to sound like them.
Like I'm their vocal shadow.
Yes.
Okay, I can see how that would be helpful.
It helps you internalize the natural flow and intonation of spoken English.
Oh,
So you sound less robotic.
and more like a native speaker.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. 2 more techniques to go. What's number 5?
Number 5 is think in phrases.
Think in phrases. Interesting. So instead of just thinking happy, I might think.
I'm feeling incredibly happy today.
Okay, I see. So it's about moving beyond single words and using richer phrases.
Exactly.
I can see how that would make a big difference. Like it's more natural, more fluent.
It adds more depth to your spoken English. Helps you communicate more effectively.
Makes sense. Okay, what's the final technique on their list?
The last one is probably the most straightforward, but maybe the most important. It's speak every day.
Speak every day. Sounds simple enough, but how?
Any way you can. Find opportunities to practice speaking, even if it's just with.
AI chatbots.
Yep, those work. Or recording yourself.
The main thing is to just do it, right?
Exactly. It's about making English a part of your everyday life, not just something you do in class or with a textbook.
Okay, so far I'm really liking these techniques. They seem really practical and doable.
They are, but we're not done yet.
There's more.
There's a whole other part to fluency that we haven't even touched on yet.
Uh-oh. What is it?
They go on to talk about something that I think holds a lot of learners back. Fear.
Yeah, fear. It's one thing to know the techniques, but it's another to actually overcome the fear and use them.
You're telling me. I'm really curious to hear what they have to say about that.
Me too. What kind of advice do they give?
Well, they start by reminding us that mistakes are normal.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, they're just part of the process. In fact, they actually encourage you to think of them as,
Like valuable feedback.
exactly. They help you see where you can improve. It's like instead of beating yourself up for every mistake.
You can see them as stepping stones.
Yeah. Stepping stones on the path to fluency.
Love that. Okay, so what else do they say about dealing with the fear?
They have this really empowering message. Don't wait until you feel perfectly ready to start speaking.
Because that day might never come.
Right. It's easy to get stuck waiting for that perfect moment,
Yeah.
but it might never come.
I know, I do that with a lot of things, not just English. I put things off until I feel more confident, but then I end up just...
Not doing them at all.
Exactly. So they're basically saying, just dive in.
Just dive in. Start speaking NOW, even if it feels messy, even if it's not perfect.
Progress over perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they make a really good point about what fluency actually adds.
Okay, what is it? Lay it on me.
It's not about speaking perfectly like a robot.
Thank goodness.
It's about being able to communicate your ideas clearly and connect with other people.
So it's more about human connection, even if it's a little grammatically messy sometimes.
Yes. It's about getting your message across, having real conversations, building relationships, even if you make a few grammar mistakes along the way.
Okay, that definitely takes the pressure off a bit. But how do we actually build up that confidence to start speaking?
They recommend immersing yourself in English as much as possible. Watch videos, join online groups, listen to podcasts, read books.
Anything that interests me.
Exactly. The more you surround yourself with English, the more comfortable you'll become.
So it's like I'm training my ear to the sounds and rhythms of English, almost like a musician practicing their scales.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
And it helps you absorb new vocabulary and grammar naturally, too.
Without even realizing it. So, okay, so we've talked about techniques, mindset, and even the science behind it all.
Lots of good stuff.
Tons. But do they give any practical advice? Like, how do I put all of this together into a daily routine?
They do. They actually end the video with a simple, achievable daily routine. You can use it right away.
Okay, I am ready. Hit me with it. What's step 1?
They recommend starting your day with 10 minutes of English listening. It could be a podcast, music, news, whatever you enjoy.
Starting the day with an English boost. Love it. What's next?
Throughout the day, they recommend trying something called thinking aloud in English.
Thinking aloud. So like
Yeah.
narrating my life as I go about my day.
Exactly. Describe what you're doing, what you see around you.
Mm.
Think through your plans in English.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like I'm constantly keeping my brain in that English mode.
Exactly.
What else? What's the next part of this daily routine?
They suggest setting aside just 5 minutes for a timed speaking session.
5 minutes? That's doable. What do I talk about?
Anything. The topic doesn't matter. It's about practicing speaking spontaneously.
A little mini speech practice session? Okay, I like it. What's the final step?
Before bed, take a few minutes to either review new words you've learned or just reflect on your day.
In English, of course.
Of course.
I love that idea. So basically, I'm bookending my day with English practice.
And by sticking with this routine, you're making it a habit, not just something you do once in a blue moon.
It becomes part of my life.
Exactly. Integrate it into your routine. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed with this video so far. Really practical, easy to understand.
Me too.
But wait, they're not done yet, are they?
You're right. They summarize the whole video with 3 key takeaways.
I'm ready for a little pep talk. Bring it on.
Okay, number 1, fluency is a mindset.
So it's not something that happens overnight, right? It's about like cultivating a positive attitude and trusting the process.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs along the way.
Okay, what's takeaway number 2?
Daily training is crucial. Just like physical exercise, you need to practice regularly. Consistency is key.
I'm a big believer in that. Small steps, big changes. What's their last takeaway?
Mistakes are not failures. They're valuable learning opportunities.
So I should embrace those mistakes, learn from them, and keep going.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the techniques, the mindset, the science, even a daily routine. What else is there?
Well, they end the video with a powerful call to action. They challenge viewers to pick one technique from the video and start using it today.
No more procrastinating. Time to take action.
Yep. But they do leave us with one final thought to ponder.
Oh, what is it?
They ask, now that you've learned about these techniques, what area of English speaking are you most excited to improve first? And how will you tailor these strategies to your own WN goals?
Whoa, that is a good question. It really makes you think about your personal motivations. Why are you learning English?
And it reminds us that everyone's journey to fluency is different. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
So true. Yeah, it really makes you think about what fluency actually means to you.
Right. Because it's different for everyone.
Like, for some people, it might be about feeling confident giving presentations in English.
For others, it might be about, being able to have conversations without feeling nervous.
Or even just, like, expressing yourself creatively in English.
Solely, whether it's storytelling, writing songs, whatever.
It's all about figuring out what excites you about speaking English.
And then using that to guide your learning journey.
Creating your own personal fluency roadmap.
Exactly. One that's aligned with your passions and goals. And there's no right or wrong answer. The important thing is that it's meaningful to you.
I love that. It's like we're taking all these amazing insights from the video.
And making them our own.
Yeah. Creating a custom-designed fluency plan tailored to our unique needs and dreams.
And that's what makes language learning so exciting. It's a journey of self-discovery.
So true.
You're not just learning a language, you're unlocking new possibilities for yourself.
Beautifully said. Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into unlocking your fluent English brain.
Let's keep a few things in mind.
Like what?
Well, first, remember that fluency isn't a finish line. It's an ongoing journey.
There will be ups and downs.
But the most important thing is to just keep going.
Don't give up.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to celebrate the small victories along the way.
Oh, I like that.
Like every time you try a new technique.
Or understand a native speaker without subtitles.
Yeah. Or just feel a boost in your confidence. Take a moment to acknowledge those wins.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in what we haven't achieved yet, you know?
It is. But it's just as important to recognize how far we've come.
So what's the most important thing we can do right now to improve our fluency?
Just take action.
Pick a technique and go for it.
Yep. Remember what they said in the video.
The most important step is the one you take right now.
Exactly. And you listening out there.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope you learned a few things.
And that you feel inspired to take your English to the next level.
Until next time, happy learning.